thank you. Steve, I think I'm going to ask the candidates to expound upon this subject of jobs just a little bit more. Let's say that you're an industrial recruiter from Union County, and if you're in Congress, you would be in a very large sense of the word. But let's say you're talking to a Boeing, to a BMW, to some other person who's got a lot of jobs to give, and you've got to make a case for Union County. In just a few words from each of you, and David, you'll go first. What would you say Union County has going for it? What would you say Union County needs? David.
Thank you. Union County needs water, because if you're doing an industrial development, you're going to need large quantities, well, almost certainly large quantities of water. Now, retail might not need as much, so that's why the first thing that we need is to bring water here. Now, first thing in the sense of long term, and the first thing in the sense of 10 years, 15, 20 years development that we need. What we have incentives in South Carolina, I would tell them. We have a great workforce in South Carolina, and especially the upstate. Union has that. What it doesn't have is that one infrastructure issue that we need to get out of the way. And again, I go back to Mr. Jeter, who has pinpointed this, and if the Patriots Lake project doesn't work, then a water reservoir smaller, deeper would work. Now, the folks up here have been talking big picture. Of course, they're right about the big picture, lowering the load and the impact of taxes. But I'm talking micro at this point. That's what affects Union.
Union has railroads, it has beautiful land, it has hardworking people. And if it needs water, thanks to the Palladium Group and my work with Woodruff Roebuck Water and Sewer District, I have experienced the problem with getting water, and the problem is the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy causes a little tiny community in need of fresh water to spend millions of dollars and at least a dozen years in order to get absolutely required water. But there are ways of cutting through that bureaucracy if you are an experienced, if you understand how bureaucracy works and what the Congress can do vis-a-vis the bureaucracy. It can get a handle on it, it can oversee it, and if I'm in Congress, I'll make that a high priority.
All right, Jim.
Tom, I would tell a Boeing or any other industrial company that South Carolina is a free work state. And that is one of our greatest assets. Union County has tremendous natural resources and a tremendous people who are willing to work. But I'll be candid with the people of the Union and the people of the upstate. What Union needs is leadership. People with a vision who can see beyond next week and the need to try and get a few jobs to town and see what Union County has to offer in a long-range plan. That's what Union needs. The federal government can only do so much, and certainly as an ambassador for the 4th District, I will do everything that I possibly can to convince people that those things are there. I'm also going to actively work with rising individuals who have an interest in seeing Union County benefit and not just their own self-interests, and to help develop that leadership, who understand what business is, what economics are, and what the important things are in order to bring jobs to Union County.
All right, Trey.
Tom, I've been coming to Union since 1994, and if I were fortunate enough to be the congressman, I would bring any executive in the United States who was interested in this county, and I would introduce them to the leaders, not the ones that you've read about in the newspaper, those 4 or 5, but the 50 or 60 that do things the right way, like your clerk of court who's sitting on the first row that I've known since the 1990s, men and women in law enforcement, the school teachers, the principals. There's a wonderful, fierce loyalty and pride in this community. You need an unabashed cheerleader and champion to introduce you to those who are looking for jobs. Union will sell itself. You just need a chance, and you need a congressman that doesn't forget that there's another county in the 4th Congressional District.
Sure.
Congressmen and women have a great opportunity at the close of business of every congressional workday, and that's the special orders. And if I am elected, I will spend an hour talking about Union every chance that I get. I'll have my flip charts, I'll have my pictures, and Union County will get a free national ad every chance that I get. I'll have to talk about issues now and then, but just like that crook, Jim Trafficant used to say, beam me up, Scotty, I'll be known selling union when she's in the Congress.
All right, candidates, we're ready to move on to another subject. Okay. One of the attachments to the health care reconciliation bill, largely overshadowed by the attention and the debate over health care, is a major reform of the student loan program. I think it's appropriate we talk about this being on a university campus tonight. It essentially cuts out the middleman, a bank or other lender in the student loan process. That loan would instead come straight from the government. It's estimated to save $61 billion over 10 years. Money, as proponents say, can be redirected mainly to Pell Grants, which help students from low and moderate income families afford higher education. Candidates, do you think this is a good reform or not, in your opinion? Christina, go first, please.
This is a good example of Washington irresponsibility. Nobody in Washington wants to take responsibility for the job that they are assigned. The U.S. Department of Education is assigned to the responsibility of overseeing the student loan program. They blew it. So because they blew it, a centralized system of supervision, we're going to centralize it more. We're going to have more regulations. And we're not going to have any competition in the student market business. Does that have face validity? Does that seem to you the way to go? It's like they used to say about welfare. It's not working because we don't have enough of it. And we got welfare reform, we decentralized welfare, and it worked better. We need it. Decentralized and more competition, not less.
All right, thank you. Candidates, now use these microphones for the benefit of our radio audience. I'd ask you to hold it just a little bit closer to your mouths, please. That'd be helpful. All right, Jim, you're next.
Tom, the question was, do I think this is a good reform? No, I don't. The federal government has demonstrated time and time again that they don't do big things well. And what they're proposing to do in taking over the student loan industry is an opportunity for the federal government to have even more control over education. Education is a local issue. College is not a guaranteed right under the Constitution. It's important, don't get me wrong. Education is the single greatest thing that an individual can do to ensure their future success. But it's not the government's responsibility to provide that. Frankly, the fact that the federal government has failed in its ability to manage a system that they created in the first place is enough evidence for me to say, no, let's not do this. The fact that they've tossed this onto the heap of a 2,900-page health care bill tells me this is just another grab for power that we see from the federal government. I do not feel this is a good reform.
All right, Troy.
Tom, my mom is sitting out here to the right. Her father had a 6th grade education. My dad is on the end of the road. He rolled newspapers at 4 o'clock in the morning because he had a dream of going to college. I get education. It is the pathway to prosperity. And if you combine education and hard work, there's nothing any of us cannot do. But it is not the role of the federal government to be in the lending business. That is a state role. It is between an individual who aspires to go to college and a banker. I am all for making it easy for folks who want an education to get it. If it weren't for education, I would not be standing on this platform. But it is not the role of the federal government. And if you want to do it, don't piggyback it on the health care bill. Have the guts to have a standalone bill and let people see what you're doing.
David.
The problem is we get confused sometimes with grants that are based on excellence and a loan. This is a business transaction. Now what will end up happening, you'll have the loans all forgiven by the federal government. You just watch and see what happens. They'll end up forgiving a large percentage, and the percentage will grow, and Congress will, because it has control, will end up dictating how many are forgiven. Well, let's see. This year, we have pressure on from this special interest group. So let's increase the number of forgiven loans that are past due by 120 days to X amount of money. So you'll have more and more forgiving of loans. Now, what that means is the loan becomes a grant. And it wasn't based on anything other, it was not based on the person's ability. It was simply a business transaction. The government has therefore transformed it. It's another gimmick. It's another trick to socialize what should not be socialized, but should be private.
All right, candidates.